Welcome everyone to this episode of the Mortgages by Gretchen show, where I talk to real people who are in the field of real estate and business, and who are not only experts, but they're very generous and willing to share their knowledge, their wisdom, and their experiences with us. And the goal of the show is for you to gain some information and tips so you can reach your goals in business and in owning real estate, and to take some of the guesswork out of what to do or who to call when you need help. Today, I'm very thrilled and excited to have Liza, I apologize, Liza. Liza Rogers.
Totally fine.
Thank you. Liza is on a mission to educate women about investing in income properties, locally, nationally, and globally. Liza is a founder of WREN, the Women's Real Estate Network. She is a visionary, a real estate investor, an action taker, a disruptor, experience creator, and a dynamic leader. Liza's approach to real estate investing emphasizes the importance of teams and partnerships in enhancing social, cultural, and environmental values in our communities. And her passion is bringing a holistic lens to her work. And she serves as an example that wealth isn't just about money. I have met Liza recently for the first time, and I thank Sarah Larby for introducing me to her via her podcast that she had done, and she sent out an email, and I was thrilled to hear what Liza is working on. So we connected and she graciously agreed to be here today. So Liza, if you want to give any additional introduction to yourself, I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So Gretchen, thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. It's it's always wonderful to hear what other people in real estate are doing from across the country, and indeed, with the crazy world that we've got going on right now, what's going on in North America, what's going on globally, and how does that impact us? And so for me, a little bit more about me. I actually have a tourism and event background. So I've worked on cruise ships. I kind of joke about living on the largest co-housing thing in the world, which is a cruise ship, where your captain, your boyfriend, and your ex-boyfriend are all only 3 minutes away from you. So got to choose wisely there. So worked on cruise ships, worked at a couple of Olympic Games, worked in Sydney, Australia for the Olympics there, had a great time. Just have really been passionate about building community, and with a passion for travel that I have, it kind of naturally turns into a passion for real estate and co-housing and co-living, because I'm always looking for great properties. I'm always thinking about where am I going to be living. And for me, I always need to make sure that I have money for travel. And so anything that I do in real estate needs to support that passion of mine. One of the things that I often tell people as well is I kind of did things in reverse. I traveled early. I kind of looked at life and, said, hey, life is short. I don't want to sit in a cubicle for the rest of my life. I'm going to go work and travel, and did that, and, didn't earn a ton of money, but then came back and thought, oh my gosh, I've just had so much fun. But is it time for me to kind of settle down a little bit? And if I'm going to do that, how am I going to make sure that I build enough of a future and a retirement so that I can continue to fuel my passion for travel? And the answer, every way I looked at it, was real estate. And so that's what I dove into, and that's where we are now.
Excellent. Very exciting background. Okay, so you have a lot of energy and you've made a huge impact in a lot of areas. Do you recommend any lifestyle choices or mindset tips that allow you to keep your energy up and achieve what you set to create?
Absolutely. So mindset and attitude are number one, right? And again, in the world that we are in right now, it's very easy to succumb to the fear and the worry that's going on, but we have to be the light in the world. We have to be grateful for the things we have. I mean, especially here in North America, yes, we may complain about, what we went through with COVID and the inconveniences that we had to put up with, and there were bumps to the economy for sure, and businesses struggled. But look at where we also are as Canadians. We have, we mostly have our freedom. We still have incredible opportunities to get into real estate. We still have incredible opportunities to start business. We have, pretty good access to healthcare. And so part of that is, the mindset is, having an attitude of gratitude, surrounding yourself with people who are also going to lift you up. You know, one of the things that as women, it's very easy to see a lot of women in the media, in television shows, in, you know, music, you know, reality TV. Like, is that the reality that we want, where women are tearing each other down? You know, I don't succumb or watch or recommend anybody watch any of that crap, because that's what it is. You know, you need to surround yourself with great people who are doing good, positive things. And as women in particular, we need to lift each other up. And if you're not with people who are lifting you up, then you're in the wrong crowd.
I agree 100%. Perfect. Okay, so I have 3 children who are in their 20s. So an area that you work on that really interests me personally is your advocacy for co-housing and co-living initiatives. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so, you know, co-housing and co-living, in some ways, it kind of feels like they're new terminologies, but it's actually the way we used to live. You know, we used to live in community. And if you talk to, you know, friends that you have from Asia or Latin America, they don't put their old folks in and, you know, their parents in an old folks home. You know, they generally have multi-generational homes where people are constantly surrounded by family. You know, the old folks aren't sitting aging in front of a television, and the kids aren't like handed a screen to be, you know, distracted while parents are working. So this whole idea of co-housing and co-living is really based on the way we used to live. We used to live in community. And one of the things that COVID has shown us, and it was really actually starting to become apparent even before COVID, is the thing that we're struggling with in most of the developed nations around the world is actually loneliness. So at both ages, at both ends of the age spectrum, young people are committing suicide at higher levels, and so are older people. And a lot of that has to do with being lonely. And being lonely and not being able to afford to do the things that you might want to do because you're house poor, your rent costs too much money, or your mortgage costs too much money, or you didn't plan properly for retirement. So there's so many things that co-housing and co-living satisfies in terms of it can be an effective way to save money, but it can also be a lifestyle choice that you get into, that you might buy what we call a BFF mansion and actually live in a multi-million-dollar property with your best friends. And it may not be cheap, but you've got your community there, and so you can know with certainty that your mental health is going to do better because you're not going to be by yourself, you know, aging alone in front of a television. And we're just seeing so much of that. And COVID, of course, like really highlighted that. And again, you know, who wants to go into a retirement home, especially knowing what we know now? And Gretchen, you and I were talking before the call. I was saying, like, I'm in an active construction zone right now. I've got the exterior of my house being painted, and we just bought an 8-unit apartment building just across from the beach in Victoria that we're literally turning into our own BFF mansion and retirement home. So we're planning on how we're going to set that up and just have fun, and, you know, long table dinners and board games and a big projector TV for when we want to sit outside and watch movies. So that's, you know, co-housing and co-living is more than about saving money. It's also about lifestyle, and it's about building in the mental health things that we need for our future. And it's getting back to the way we used to live. We used to live in, you know, the village, the tribe, the group. It was really only after World War II that all of a sudden this idea of individuality, and if you're going to be successful, you must succeed on your own. And that was when the suburbs were built and the highways were built, and everybody had one car and, you know, 1.5 kids or 2.5 children or whatever it is. And now we're realizing that model didn't work. It's not sustainable for the planet, for, you know, for many other reasons, but it's not a sustainable model moving forward.
So that's very interesting. I've not heard of BFF Mansion. Is that what you called it? BFF
yeah,
Mansion?
The BFF Mansion, the best friend forever mansion. Yeah.
I love it. So what are some other examples of co-housing or co-living that you are aware of or a part of?
Absolutely. So a lot of people think of the, when they hear the term co-op, right? So a lot of people nowadays want to avoid the co-op because they kind of have that idea that it's, the 70s hippies commune, right?
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but not everybody wants to live in a 70s hippie commune. So the more modern take on the co-housing and co-living situation, right? Think of like your RV park or your mobile home park. And again, we were chatting just before we started recording. Mobile home parks are becoming, they used to be fashionable. I mean, it used to be when Airstreams first came out in the 30s and 40s, it was all the rich people who went to mobile home parks. They'd hook up their Airstream and they'd go and, go on the beach to Malibu and hang out with their friends. And then it kind of, the trailer park boys really did us in for mobile home parks. There was a stigma with, the whole trailer trash idea. But when you talk to people who live in mobile home parks, and again, it's that, finding that like-minded community. So are you going to live, in the Malibu mobile home park, or are you going to live in the, the affordable, safe, clean housing kind of workforce mobile home park? Everybody says the same thing. You get community built in when you live in a mobile home park. So the modern day kind of version of the mobile home park that we know everybody's talking about are tiny home villages, right? So same kind of thing. So all of these kind of iterations of, manufactured homes, tiny homes, co-housing buildings that people are starting to get together in and as a group of people buy and they may, stratify them, but it's a core group of people that have gotten together. The BFF mansion, right? Buying a place with your friends, buying places with your family. How many people do we know that have come out of COVID that have bought the multi-generational home with their family, right? I know 10 people without even thinking about it. Oh yeah, we decided that we'd all buy a big 10-acre property together, and I'm going to have the granny flat out in the back, and the family's going to have the big 6-bedroom, and our brother from Alberta's moving out. So there's so many different examples of it now, and it's just going to become more and more mainstream as we realize that living in our silo, in our 2,500 square foot house by ourselves or with one or maybe two other people isn't sustainable financially. It's not sustainable for our mental health, and it's not sustainable for the environment. So we're going to start seeing just so much more of this. And one of the things, again, going back to being passionate about travel, we've just got our first co-housing situation that we've just closed on. So we're excited about that. Next one will probably be in Mexico. And then we're also looking at Portugal. So we're being very realistic about the fact that if you want to travel and work overseas, which we know, again, is happening more and more, why not buy with a group of friends? Do you need to own a whole house in Portugal? Or how about having your own personal timeshare that you share with 4 or 5 other girlfriends or family members or best friends or business colleagues or however it shapes up? So many different examples, and you can tell I'm super passionate about it.
I love it. I'm excited. We're going to have some more conversation about this after the call too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's very exciting. So as far as supporting women, so I've myself been through lean times during university, supporting myself through school, later being divorced and having a high income job at the time and needing to regroup. What would be your advice to either younger women who are, trying to create a good financial future, or those who are divorcing or a different change of life, to be financially independent and kind of a path to follow to get there, or any tips on that?
Absolutely. Great question. And thank you for asking it, because it's so important, right? The ladies that we surround ourselves with, I mean, we probably, again, have examples of, how many women do we know kind of at the older end of the age spectrum, they don't have their own credit card. They're still joint name on their husband's credit card. Like, come on, ladies, go get your own credit card. Young people that I've met, and when I first started WREN, it almost started because of the answers to these two questions. I was meeting both young women and senior citizens who were missing really important pieces of the financial puzzle. So at the older spectrum, having kind of like depended on their spouse for their whole lives, and they hadn't they hadn't written checks, or they didn't know where all their finances were. They didn't have a good sense of understanding and control about, what would happen if my husband passed away? What would I do? And then at the younger age of the spectrum, I met so many women in their like mid-20s, early 30s who'd never even had a conversation with a banker about like a consolidation loan or a credit card. And so it's a couple of key things. First of all, a lot of people have this kind of fear that, talking to the banks, talking to government bodies, that they're going to make you feel silly, or that they're going to like catch you up on something and you're going to have to fix some kind of error that you've made. Better to catch it while you've still got time to fix it. And most of these people that are on the other side of the phone, most of them want to be helpful. So if you approach them with, a little bit of authenticity and a little bit of vulnerability, and just be honest and say, look, this is my first time calling and I just need to get a little bit more understanding. I'm trying to start, planning to have a better financial future. And I just want to start, figuring out what the steps are so that I understand, what steps I have to take to move myself forward. So that can sometimes be challenging. And so that's where being part of a network, it helps so much, right? And get into a network with women of all socioeconomic and age backgrounds, because you're always going to find that there's going to be someone who's in worse shape financially or health-wise, or has a bigger problem to solve than you do. And so that's going to make you feel not so bad about your own situation. And that's where that gratitude comes in, right? You feel grateful for where you are. And then there are always going to be people who, as soon as people know that you're trying to better yourself, you're going to have a lineup of people who are going to want to say, let me help you. What can I do? And as we take those steps and make that decision to become more knowledgeable, surround ourselves with people who are doing it, the universe just has a way. Oh, and I just got the full body shivers. So that's the universe saying, you're on the right track. That's the universe opening up and saying, you're on the right track. The universe has a way of helping to, bring the people into your life that you need. And so for all women and men, but mostly we focus on women because there were so many programs that were for men, and men have been doing this for such a long time because they've had access to finances and banks much longer than women. We have to remember that women, if you went in to get a mortgage 20, 30 years ago, the bank manager said to you, "Where's your husband?" So yeah, I mean, I still meet women who say, "Oh yeah, that actually happened to me, and it wasn't that long ago." So one of the things that we need to, kind of restate all the time is women are actually driving the real estate market. More single women are buying property than more single men. I think the rate is something like 17% single women versus 9% single men. More women are buying collaboratively, and that's where WREN is, one of the reasons I'm so passionate is because I've always been about collaboration. And so, I don't need to do anything by myself. I do everything with a team. And so when you bring, women together, you just create so much more opportunity. And there's some really scary statistics. The average age of a widow in Canada is 56 years old. So you better know what your financial situation is if you're married. Most women, their quality of life goes down by 70% after a divorce, right? I'm sure we know women whose life has changed dramatically after they've had a divorce. Women are going to outlive their partners by 30 years in some cases. So all of these stats just make it like so important to take your financial future into your own hands. And if that means doing some stuff on your own, reaching out, building an accountability team, whatever it is that you can get started to move your financial future forward. And that's the key thing, right? Is just get started. It can be small steps, read a couple of books, join a network, but don't leave it until, we've done it, right? Like if we could go back to our 20-year-old selves, what would we say? Buy real estate now, start saving now, so yeah. That's like, those are the messages we have to pass on for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just going to warn you, my Zoom meeting note is telling me it might sign us off. So if it signs us off, we'll just rejoin.
No problem.
Okay, so for someone new to investing in real estate, what strategies have you seen work best, or what locations, or how does someone make some of those decisions?
Yeah, so if you're new to investing in real estate, the best thing to do is remember to take your time, right? You don't want to jump into something, there's so many opportunities, oh, I've got this great deal, and oh, I'm going to show you how you can make 15 or 18 or 25% return on your money. Take your time. Find people who are doing something that interests you, and choose the right path, right? There are so many different paths with real estate. I often talk about how, so many women in particular, we got caught up in what I call the HGTV romance. I mean, who doesn't love Scott McGillivray and Brian Balmer and, buying a hotel in an island?
Yeah.
But the reality is they've got deep pockets, they've got sponsors, they've got years of experience, they've got crews of people, teams of people working for them. So if you're going to, kind of get into real estate, realize that there are many, many, many different things you can do. You can invest passively, which means just handing your money over to a professional and saying, I want to invest this in real estate. You can be an active investor, which is, picking up the hammer and the paintbrush and doing a renovation, and flipping a house. And then there's all kinds of combinations of all of those things, and everything in between. So the idea that the best way to kind of get started and to move forward is just to sort of get an idea of what you could see yourself doing and what you have time for, right? I mean, some people would love to be on the tools, banging and hammering and painting, but they may not be at a point in their life where they can actually do that yet. So get in with people who are doing it and, volunteer on a weekend to go and help with a painting project. But surround yourself with people who are doing it and start to ask them questions about, how did they get started? Because most people started as active investors and then eventually became passive investors. And for people who are sitting on equity and have money that they can tap into, if you're sitting on equity in your home and you're not using it to invest in something, we call that dead money. I mean, that could be, you could be lending that out, you could be investing that. There's so much you could be doing on that you could be getting anywhere from, especially with the interest rates going up, you could be getting anywhere from 8 to 20% on that. And that's not the have I got a deal for you numbers. Those are practical numbers that a lot of professionals in the business are going to be able to get you, no problem.
There's so many people like that with the equity too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
With values going up so much. So yeah. Perfect. Okay, so as a real estate investor and developer, you are focusing on projects that respect wild spaces and biodiversity and preserve multifamily character homes. So maybe explain a little bit about what that means and what your vision is with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it comes down to sustainability, right? So I was lucky enough to get into a project with a partner. She had 145 acres of raw land tied up in a place called Soup, which is just north of Victoria on Vancouver Island. Just an incredible property. It had previously been logged. The logging company had literally devastated the property. And so, our thing this year, we've been planting trees, and we've planted 2,500 trees so far, so we've had tree planting parties and we're cleaning up the land and we're subdividing it. And we know that the people who end up buying those 10-acre parcels, we're going to be selling 4 of them over the summer. The people who are buying those parcels are people who like rural areas. They like the natural setting. There's a wetland in their backyard. So as we kind of come back to what our values are, right? We've gone through this COVID thing, and I keep referring to this, I know, but one of the things again that people realized is I don't have to live in the city in a condo and go to work in an office building, or I don't have to live, an hour away in a subdivision and commute, because now I can actually choose where I want to live. And that might be, an hour away or 2 hours away, or it might be in another country. There's some super interesting statistics that are showing that 20% of Airbnb bookings are now over 30 days. So more and more remote workers are booking into Airbnb bookings. So it's that sustainable lifestyle of freedom, respecting the environment. We want to do less damage to the environment. So if we can preserve the houses, the BFF Mansions, for example, they work great. How many beautiful houses have we seen that have been torn down because they don't work for the majority of purchasers? But you get a group of friends together, and then you might have an opportunity to create this really beautiful home for, a couple of different families, or, 5 or 6 of your best girlfriends. So the most sustainable home is the one that stays standing up and gets a renovation. So yeah, so with the character homes, they just make such great opportunities for converting into, that BFF mansion, right? Live with a bunch of friends. You can each have your own little kind of micro suite and have a larger kitchen, common area. They're being stratified into townhouses now. So, I mean, I just love, we actually just updated ours, and as I say, we've got the guys outside painting right outside my window. I had to move them earlier because I'm like, guys, I'm just about to do a recording. So there's just so much life and energy in them, and people love them, right? I mean, when people come in here and see 10-foot ceilings, they're like, wow, this place is amazing.
I can tell just from the little bit, it must be tall ceiling, and it has the moldings and
the crown moldings, the wainscoting, the beautiful stained glass. It's fantastic. So it's so much nicer if we can, keep these things standing and update them. And again, sustainability. A house that exists is much more sustainable than a house that you have to replace. And for the whole co-living and co-housing movement, they just make a great kind of palette to start working on. So
beautiful.
Yeah,
that's really nice. So what would the last piece of advice you would have for Canadians right now?
Yeah, so this is a great question as well, Gretchen. And I think, with the way the market is right now, people are starting to panic a little bit, right? We're seeing interest rates that we had before COVID. I mean, they're not that crazy. They're interest rates that we've seen before. I mean, remember the 80s, people bought houses at 8 or 18% interest. And if they bought in the right location, they're still coming out like bandits because they might have paid $300,000 for that place, and now it's maybe worth $3 million. So sometimes the interest rate, if it works, it's still worth getting into it. It's just, if the numbers work, then it's worth doing. So one of the key pieces of information is, don't feel like you always have to buy real estate, on your own and in your own backyard, because sometimes your own backyard is the most expensive. So if you can get in, as a collaboration, buy a condo with a friend, buy a condo in Moncton, where it's actually just been declared the best real estate market in Canada. And you can still pick up condos for probably $200,000. So buy one with a friend, buy something you can rent out, so that if you aren't going to live in it, you can, make some rent on it for a while. You don't necessarily have to live in it for it to be, your first purchase. The key thing is, don't panic and do something, right? So, don't just get caught up in the headlines. Join a network. Surround yourself with people who are actively investing. One of the things that we talk about all the time, uncertainty and crisis always brings opportunity. And I was just having this conversation with someone a couple of days ago, and I was saying, all of the best things that I have done in my life, the things that have catapulted me, like shot me like out of a cannon forward, have been things that I have done when I have been uncertain and when the world has been uncertain. So for me, it's been like, oh, uncertainty's here. It's time for me to make a dramatic change. And right, it's like, hit the gas. Everybody else is hitting the brake and panicking, and I'm like, oh, the uncertainty light has come on. That means it's time for us to jump in with head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So yeah, I mean, the key takeaway out of that is, don't panic. Yes, things are changing. Yes, the media is making it all sound like the sky is falling, but the sky is not falling. And you just need to, take some action. You don't need to jump in right away, but build yourself a network, join existing networks, read some books that show you, all the other people that have taken action in times of crisis. And this too will end. And right now, might be a little bit scary, but 5 years from now, you'll look back and you'll say, oh yeah, that real estate thing that I did, like right when everybody thought the sky was falling, was the best decision I made. So don't panic. That's my number one thing. That's a long way of saying don't panic.
I think it's great advice. Yeah, because I get that asked every day. Oh no, the variable crime's going up. Should I lock in my variable? Probably not, but
Yeah.
let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
this has been so informative and fun, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future. And thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait for everyone to hear all of your great advice and get inspired by you.
My pleasure, Gretchen, and I'm looking forward to more adventure with you, and I'll keep you posted when I'm out in Toronto. Oh, and they're right outside the window. Can you hear them?
I'm starting to hear a little something, but it's not too bad.
Back to the renovations I go. Thanks, Gretchen.
Okay, thanks.